Well, today's vlog is a little bit different because it's the one where we tackle the mud. Now, if you've been watching our vlogs for a while, then you'll know that we've had an absolute nightmare with the mud around the front of the stable that we use as a field shelter. It's taken this long to tackle it because, well, we've had a string of disasters happen, such as Storm Dara blowing the whole roof off our stable. And yeah, so we've had to fix all that first. But today is the day that we are going to master the mud. Now, we've got mud, and I mean really thick mud, that will quite literally suck off your boots. And it's clay-based, so the water holds there. And, well, we are in this rural countryside, and we are not allowed to have any kind of hardcore put down because we just can't get planning permission for that. So we have done an absolute ton of research and we've come up with the best solution, and that is mud control mats, or slabs as most people now call them. Now, like I said, this vlog is going to be a little bit different because it's going to be a really comprehensive guide of how to put these things down and basically how we do it. We've never done this kind of thing before, so you're going to see all the things that we either get wrong, get right, and how we can fix them as well. So what I'm going to do is break this vlog down into sections, and I'll put in the description timings so that you can skip to different parts of the video if there's a certain aspect that you need to really look at. And for everyone else, yeah, watch along, and hopefully this will be a good learning guide for some of you out there. So you might be thinking, what on earth is a mud slab? I don't even know what one is. And well, it's one of these. And well, they're made of recycled plastic and they're 2 inches thick, 50 centimetres squared, so each side is 50 centimetres, and they weigh 7 kilograms, so they're pretty heavy, and they act like, well, like a raft when they're interlocked together, and they sort of float on the mud. They don't sink, which is incredible, really. Now, on their website, it says that these things can carry up to 60 tonne. So they can be used in one of 2 ways, either the closed side up, which is this one with the holes. That's the most common way to use them, and they create dry areas that are somewhat slip resistant for your horses. Or you can put them upside down and use them the open side up. That makes them ideal for when a thicker tread is needed. They hold water in the little grooves, and that prevents the top surface from drying out too quickly. People actually use these as a base for manages when you've got really soft ground, and yeah, they seem to work really well. They reckon you can make a solid, sturdy base on the wettest of mud, which you've just seen we've clearly got, in a matter of minutes, because they act as a sub base as well as a base. So I guess it's a bit like how you put hardcore in. You have to dig everything out first. With these, because they've got interlocking teeth, you don't have to do that. Now, we haven't been paid to make this video. We are not at all sponsored by the people who make these mud slabs. We've just gone off the recommendations and comments from you guys who watch our videos, and I'm so grateful to you. And yeah, so that leads me nicely to our next section of this video, which is how we figured out how many slabs we actually needed. So Simon has made this animation to help me show you exactly how we worked out how many slabs we needed. So let's get the stable in there. How cool was that? So 1 pallet of mud slabs covers 35 square metres, and the stable is 7 metres across. So 35 square metres divided by 7 equals a nice round 5. So it meant that we could have a covered area 7 metres across by 5 metres deep. But we didn't want to do that because we knew that we wanted to put in a path because, well, the budget just didn't stretch to more than one pallet. And in order to create more of a surface area, more of an area that was mud-free, putting in a path was, well, the cheapest option because horses will naturally follow a path. They love following a path. So I knew that as soon as they saw one, they would happily follow it down and all the way along. So the next thing I'm going to tell you about is delivery and how we got these things delivered. Now the mud mats are really quite easy to order online. You just have to put in your order on the order form and send it through, and you do literally get a response back in a couple of hours, and if you put it in late of an evening then you'll get it back the next morning. Now your mud mats will be delivered on a huge lorry, and it does say on the order form, do you have a forklift and a flat area on site so that you can either remove the mats yourself, and well, you need to be able to unload them onto a hard standing. Now we don't have anything like that near our field, but it just so happens that Simon has a forklift at his factories and a perfect hard standing area, so we had them delivered there. Now, if you've got a lovely yard with a driveway, a car park, what have you, and that you can have access for the lorry to drive on, then the lorry does have a lift on the back that they can take your pallets off. So don't think, oh, I've got to have a forklift. You really don't. So our plan was to take Bertha to Simon's factory and load her up with the mud control slabs. Now, as you can see, Bertha has a really steep ramp, so we couldn't get the forklift too close, but we could get it quite close. So we just formed a bit of a human chain and got them off ourselves. So if you're like us and you haven't got very good access, then maybe if you've got a 4x4 truck or just a big car, because you can move several of these at a time in the back of your car if you should need to. So Bertha is ideal for driving down our path and our track. So all I did was reverse down, and we did the same thing. We just formed a human chain and got those mud mats off the back. I have to say, they are quite heavy, so be aware of that. They also smell quite strange. I don't think you'd even notice it outside, but because we had them in the factory for just over a week and then they were on Bertha while we transported them here, there's definitely a strong smell because they are made out of recycled plastic, which is amazing. And I don't know, there's like a vegetable, a rotten vegetable smell. Just thought I'd mention that. So the next thing that I'm going to be showing you and explaining is how we laid these mud mats down. Now, remember, we've never done this before. It was a huge learning curve, but we have watched so many YouTube videos about this. There aren't very many good ones. There's quite a few very short, quick clip ones, and I'll link some of those in the description below so you can see what we basically have based what we've done today off. Now you can lay these slabs in two different ways, either in a grid style, which I'm showing you now, or in a staggered style, which I'll show you in a second. The grid style is ideal for inside stables and shelters because they'll be contained within a perimeter, and that will prevent them from separating, as continuous straight lines can cause a weakness in the structure. You also have to leave an expansion gap of between 3 and 5 millimeters to avoid buckling in extremely hot weather. Laying the slabs in a grid style also means that it's easy to add extra slabs at a later date, as you can only lay slabs along a straight edge. Due to how wet the mud is here, and with it being a really high traffic area, we are going to go for a staggered style, which makes the overall structure a lot stronger, as then you only have one straight line intersecting with the next row of slabs. This creates a 1-to-1 structure, which is recommended by the manufacturer. Now, a lot of people lay sand down first, but we are laying these mats onto thick, wet mud. It's probably the worst conditions you could possibly think of to lay these mud slabs on. So this really will be a test of how good they really are and whether they do live up to the hype, because let's face it, this is bad. From our research, we found that the sand that you put on the top washes away quite quickly. It goes straight through the holes. And we didn't want to put a membrane down because we want to be able to put grass seed down in the holes so that the grass still grows through the mats. And we're thinking that it will really firm up the base underneath. So next year, because the ground won't be churned up because the mats are already on there, that should work out quite well. But obviously I'm going to do lots of updates on these mats so that you can see for yourself how it works, whether it works well, and how we get on. Right then, now we know what they are, how to order them, measure them up and actually get them here. So it's time to get them down and lay the slabs. When you lay these slabs on very soft ground like we are, the best and easiest way, so that you don't get the interlocking tabs all clogged up with mud, is to use wooden boards that are long enough to accommodate a full row of mud slabs. The easiest way to move them is by dragging them with a rope. So all you need to do is drill some holes wide enough for a rope to go through and tie off the end at an appropriate length. Now, we didn't want to spend money on OSB strand board or plyboard because, well, number one, it would have delaminated as soon as it got wet, and two, it's really quite pricey. So we had a look online to see if we could get any free boards from a construction site or something similar. And we managed to find a container storage yard that was giving away some old container flooring for absolutely free. So me and Leo went and collected some. Problem is, we didn't realise how heavy they were going to be, as they are 1.5 inches thick, but at the end of the day, free is free. So next we had to pull the boards into place. They were super heavy and super awkward to move, but definitely worth the extra effort. The ground was fairly firm underneath the overhang of the stable, so the boards were not required for the very first row. The most important part was making sure that the slabs in the doorways were level with the inside of the stable, so that the horses wouldn't trip as they were walking in and out of there, especially Toby, being as he is blind. So the first row's in. As always, the first row is always really difficult. We've left these rectangles without mats on, purely because it never ever gets wet there, and it's nice to have the like brambles and things grow there. And yes, we did cut a whole mat so that we could protect the tree. It's been mentioned before that I should take the tree out. I really don't want to. It keeps that area dry. It also stops Hope from knocking out the front of the stable because it's literally wedged the front of the stable there. So removing it would just, well, it wouldn't benefit us in any way, and it definitely wouldn't benefit the little tree. And all to save a tree.
Oh, what was that?
Slot in there.
Yeah. Looks like we're nearly back in tomorrow. Well, if we don't get this done today, the horses can't come out that paddock.
So the mud slabs lock together quite easily, but as I said earlier, you can only add more slabs to a straight edge. So you have to assemble a whole row of slabs first and then push them into the previous row so that the tabs interlock together. I definitely recommend having a sledgehammer throughout this whole installation process, so that you can tap the slabs into position without having to bend down all the time. And as you'll see later in the video, when we get onto the path area, it was absolutely invaluable when bedding them into the drier mud.
That's 13, hey?
Yep.
So we just got it.
Good, isn't it?
We just got a 13 across, yeah?
Yes, sir.
We'll have to. We're not going to get another one, you know.
1, 2, 3, lift.
One.
Oh, well, that didn't work so well, did it, Simon?
No, because someone's supposed to stand there and stop them pulling off the mat.
When were you going to tell us that?
I thought it might work.
So, our first attempt at pulling the boards out from under the mats was an absolute epic failure. You see, the weight of the boards flattens the mud, which is absolutely great, but if you don't have someone holding the mud slabs as you pull the boards away, then they separate. And as you can see, it's all along that straight edge.
You got one job.
I'm not moving any lumps. It was never given to me as a job.
Push her back in there. Hang on.
The best solution that we came up with for this was to use a couple of quick clamps that we had with us.
Oh, that's it.
If we ever put any more mud slabs down in the future, then we would definitely be bringing lots more of these clamps with us because they really were brilliant.
Look, Mum, we got a path.
Yeah. In fact, using this method and much lighter boards, you could probably install these slabs on seriously wet mud completely single-handedly.
Okay.
Go for it.
Back level with this one. How many's in the row?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 13.
That was good.
So, in our original plan, we had calculated that there would be 14 slabs per row because 2 slabs equals 1 metre and the stable is 7 metres across. But we hadn't taken into consideration the position of the IBC containers and how far their bases stuck out. Plus, using the staggered method meant that we just couldn't come right up to the fence line. So, plans are great, but we actually could only fit 13 mud slabs per row. This was actually brilliant because it meant that we could put an extra couple of rows in and make the, well, should we say patio type area? Yeah, the patio type area we could make much bigger. I also think it's quite incredible that an 11-year-old can lay these things completely by himself too.
You gotta lift them a little bit closer. Oh. Wiggle and jiggle them in, and then we can.
Yeah, we're wiggle and jiggle.
Handguns.
We've only got one more.
Huh?
She passes it, they pass it to me and I go.
Okay.
One or two.
One more.
Okay, let's get these.
Can't make you slip it all the way in a minute. You're going to do the next one.
Looking good, Mom, looking good.
Yeah, ready.
Hey!
That was easy.
So with the last row of the patio in, we could drag the big boards out of the way as it was finally time to move on to the path area. We really had refined our method of putting the slabs down now, and they were just going down so incredibly quickly. The clamps had been a real game changer, and holding them with our hands as well really did speed up the entire process. That was until we started on the path. You're very helpful, Bruce.
Part way.
3, 2, 1.
Now we're in path mode.
Now, the problems that we found with laying the path was partly down to weight and partly down to the mud in that area not being as wet and sloppy as where we installed the main area. See, the weight of 2 slabs is significantly lower than that of, well, 13 slabs together. So whereas the main section pretty much stayed where they were because they were just all held together by the ones all around them, that wasn't the case for the path. See, the slabs on the pathway just sort of moved along together. We're up to about 4 rows. Now, that would have been fine if we'd had loads of those quick clamps that would have just held them all together, because they are absolutely brilliant. Or if we had a load more people that could have just held them together. I had to keep knocking them back with the sledgehammer. Again, couldn't have done this without the sledgehammer. And that, my friends, is how we laid our mud slabs. So next I'm going to show you a fix that we had to do to the one corner. But first, why don't we see what the horses thought of their brand new hard standing area. Come on. Come on. Now, I would just like to add that all of my horses are in fact barefoot and have had no issues at all whatsoever with slipping on these slabs. But the manufacturer and the suppliers highly recommend adding a sand or a wood chip topping over the top of the slabs if you have horses that are shod, so they've got shoes on basically. Again, I've had no slipping at all, but better to be safe than sorry. So this is what they look like now, and you can see that somehow, well, they really did live up to the hype, and they absolutely love them. It's been an absolute game changer, and I mean that, an absolute game changer. I had my doubts whether they would last when we were putting them down. Some parts were so squishy, and then when we had to fix that corner, and I thought, oh, I just can't see this holding up. But they really have. And oh, the biggest learning curve was actually how to keep them clean, because you do have to poo pick them every day, and you have to scrape the mud off. Because we laid these straight onto the wet mud, it does come up in places, only some places though, mainly on the path, and that seems to have settled now. That took about 2 weeks for it to settle, and there's parts in the middle, like here, where it comes through a little bit, and you can just see how they move a small bit under my feet. So I did have a small problem with the far corner, because the mud was so wet there and there was nothing to stabilise the mats there, so they came apart slightly. So this is how I fix them. I've taken those slabs out there, and I'm using the hay that I took out of the stable that was just, well, it was just all mushed up on the floor. So I'm using that to pack in the corner so that I can put the slabs back down. The corner that we fixed has held up perfectly well, which is wonderful. And if we just go along, there's a really squelchy bit there, but they're still fine. I just have to scrape it off there. And yeah, they're just amazing. So the best thing I've found to actually scrape the mats is this thing. It's like a great big hoe, and it's a draper's digging hoe. It's got this really big like foot on the end, which is good and strong, thick metal, and that is the best thing so far for just scraping the top, and then it doesn't get stuck on the little grooves that are sticking out. Now, I did try a broom, a strong broom. That didn't work at all. A rake with short teeth, that worked okay actually, but the bits of straw and hay were getting gummed up in the teeth, and the rake with the long teeth, that was just a no-go altogether. But yeah, as you can see, the digging hoe definitely worked well, so I'll put a link in the description below so you can find that if you're interested. Now, the next thing I want to show you is the path has sunk a little bit, and this is actually the hardest part to keep scraped and to keep clean, only because it's on the wettest of mud. You wouldn't want to step off it because, well, that happens and you literally sink well past your ankles. So it just goes to show how well these are still holding up. So this is the edge of the path, the edge of the mud mat. You can just see where the mud mats are, and this is the edge that leads on to the rest of the field. And well, it's just a shame that we couldn't extend this path, finances and all that, because yeah, it's not as deep as everywhere else, but well, it's not great. But I'm sure next year we'll be able to add to them. And I'm hoping that because we've got this hard standing area now, they won't mangle up the ground as much as they have this year and, well, especially last year. So hopefully that won't happen again. So there you have it. You have literally watched 2 months labour of love making this video. I can't thank you enough for watching. And if you've learned anything from this, let me know, because I would love to know. And if you can give me any tips and advice, if you've had these things longer than I have, then please give me your advice. Put it in the comments below and you can help other people as well. And yeah, hopefully I've done a good job with this. Hopefully you've liked it. If you have, give it a thumbs up. And well, if you'd like to watch more videos as intense and labour-filled as this one, then why not subscribe to our channel? And well, thank you for watching again. Until the next time, Bye-bye.